One of the most enjoyable things about getting a new editing program is to try out all the filters and effects. Now, of course, after the initial wonder wears off, you're left with trying to figure out which effects are actually useful and basically which ones should never see the light of day. Now, to help you with this, we'll show you useful ways to use great effects like light flares, particle generators, noise, and motion tracking in a way that will make your titles look professional. An easy way to make any title or graphic more interesting and professional is to use a lens flare. Now, lens flares are bright areas of light that flash across the screen in order to mimic light hitting a camcorder sensor. Now, most editors use lens flares to make footage and titles look more realistic and to draw attention to certain areas of the screen. The movie Star Trek actually makes great use of lens flares in order to give the production a natural, futuristic feel. In order to make your own, you'll first need to arrange your text on the screen. Now, for this example, we chose to promote an annual photography award show where flares can actually really help the text stand out. Next, add a gradient to the text using a variety of dark and light gold colors in order to make the text seem reflective. Then create either a black slug or black video, depending on the program you're using, and place it in your timeline. This will be the layer that we'll apply the lens flare effect to. With the lens flare applied, change the flare type to your liking. Then make a keyframe on the brightness parameter. We're going to try to make the flares look like flash photography, so I want to set a short distance between our darkest and brightest keyframes. Now, in our case, we went 3 frames ahead and set another keyframe to 150%. We then went 2 more frames ahead and set the brightness level back to 0. Now, lastly, we trimmed the clip so it was only as long as our entire flash animation. If you want more flashes in your text reveal, it's possible to copy and paste the black video layer multiple times in your timeline. This is how our animation turned out. Particle generators can also give your titles and graphics a natural look and feel. They're often used as an element to direct the viewer's eye, to create interesting backgrounds, and most of all, to give text a sense of realism. Movies like Prince of Persia: Sands of Time utilize particle generators as a way to reveal text and remind viewers of the movie's theme. We'll be making an animation for a local tire and brake company using a particle generator. First, we'll make a solid black layer in After Effects and apply the Trapcode Particular plugin to it. Now, this plugin allows us to control many different aspects of our particles, so that's why we'll be using it here. Next, we'll set our particles per second to 2000. The position of the particles up to the top of the screen and maybe even just a little bit off of it, and the Z position, or our depth value, to 1900 to, just make sure we give our rain plenty of depth for realism. We'll also need to pick the box option under emitter type, and then scroll down a bit to change the emitter size X to 5000 pixels wide, the emitter size Y to only 100 pixels tall, and the emitter size Z to 5000 pixels deep so that our rain has a lot of depth. Also, in order for us to see the particles right away, we'll need to twirl down emission extras and set the pre-run option to 100%. Moving on down the list, we'll set our particle life at 2 seconds so it lasts long enough to be seen on the screen, set the size of the particle at 10, and change the size over life parameter to get progressively smaller until it resembles a downward slope. In this example, we actually chose to use custom designed backlit raindrops that we built in Photoshop instead of using the particle presets in particular. This next step is where the real magic begins. Under the physics setting, we'll change the physics model to bounce so that our rain will quickly come down from the sky and then bounce on our pavement. In order to make sure our rain drops fast enough, we'll set the gravity to 500. Then, in order to make things a little more interesting, we'll twirl down the air property and change the wind Y to 1500, which will simulate wind coming straight down from the sky, and the wind Z value to 125 so that the rain slants a bit towards the screen. Next, under the bounce parameter, we'll set our floor layer to be our street background layer, the amount of bounce to be just 1, and then we'll enter 0 in the slide value since we don't want our particles moving once they've hit the pavement. Now lastly, under the aux system, we'll set a particle to emit at the bounce event. From here, we'll set our emit probability to 100%. That way every raindrop that hits the pavement spawns other little rain droplets. We'll put our particles per collision to 6 in order to make sure that we don't get too particle heavy, the lifespan of the particle to 1 second, the size of the particle to 4, and the velocity of the bounce particle to 400, since we want it to appear that the raindrop hit the ground fairly hard. Now the only thing left is to set our gravity at 500 in order to match the gravity for the raindrops that initially fell from the sky. At this point, all we have to do is just add our text and maybe a few flashes of light that look like lightning, and we have a very natural rain effect that quickly gets our point across to the viewers. One of the most forgotten yet powerful plugins in compositing and titling programs is noise. Though it may not sound like much, it's the basis of many great effects. The noise plugin is often used to create displacement maps, textures, and more commonly, backgrounds. In our case, we'll be using the noise filter to make a Western title look like it was shot on old film. The first thing you'll need to do is make a black solid. Now you can do this by going to the Layer menu, then New, then Solid, and then place your solid on the composition or timeline. Then grab the Fractal Noise plugin from your effects window and apply it right to that solid. Once you've done that, change the value of the contrast setting to 350 and the brightness to -165. This will leave smaller portions of the fractal noise effect on screen that mimic your dust on the film. If you want the dust to be thicker though, you can make these values smaller to leave more of the dust on the screen. Next, in order to give your dust some movement, scrub your playhead to the beginning of the timeline and click the stopwatch icon next to the evolution parameter. This will set a keyframe for this value. At this point, if you're using a 5-second composition like we are, go to the end of your timeline and change the evolution value to 10. Now you can use a little bit more in the evolution value if you have a longer composition. Lastly, change the blend mode of the clip to difference. Now, playing our animation through, you can see that we now have a great looking old film effect. Complex motion tracking tasks are best left to programs such as Adobe After Effects or Mocha, but simple tracking over very short periods of time can be accomplished within any editing program. For example, you've probably seen a commercial where someone has a message or other symbol floating above them as they walk. Now, in order to make a similar effect, place your walking person footage on the timeline and the message to be floated on the video track above it. Now, make sure the message graphic is selected. Scale it to the desired size and then position it directly above the person's head so that it appears to be floating there. Next, set a position keyframe. Using the right arrow key on your keyboard, advance the timeline until the person's head has significantly moved in the frame. And at that point, drag the message into the same approximate position above their head as the frame before it. Now don't worry, each time you move the layer, a new keyframe should be created. Then repeat this process until you're at the end of the clip. Then render the animation, and the message will follow the person around as though it's attached to their head. As you can see, effects and filters can really help titles look realistic and compelling. Using the techniques we've shown you and with plenty of practice, you'll be able to make titles that will make any production look professional.